So just want to welcome everybody. We're glad to have you. Today, we're going to be focusing on email templates and more so how to go from a standard email template that maybe feels impersonal to something that would build trust and is going to be helpful for the family. So we'll be talking about personalization, tone, and authenticity in order to make those emails better for you. So we're glad you're here. Today we're going to be we're going to be doing this with Gianne and myself. So Gianne's with the client success team. Crystal is our assistant extraordinaire who's always here to help us too. And Andrea would normally be here, but she's out this week, so she won't be joining us. But really, like I said, our goal today is to help you write emails that kind of feel more human. Make sure you understand where the email templates live in Parting Pro, how to use the email templates, and how to structure an email that is going to be effective. So as we go, feel free to post questions. This is supposed to be interactive. So feel free and post questions as we go. We will get to as many questions as we can. We'll try and get to all of them. So feel free and just post as you need here. So we'll start with just the basics, like why the email is going to matter. And for this today, we're primarily going to be talking about the proposal email, which in Parting Pro is that initial email that you can send a family to connect them to your online store. That email is often going to be the first impression that your family has of the business. Now, they may have talked to somebody on the phone, but it might have been a very brief conversation. And so this email that gets sent to them is that first impression. And that's why this email, I would say, is probably the most important of the emails, because it's going to set the tone for your interactions with this customer. And you can either set the tone to kind of build trust, or it can be just an email that erodes some of that trust by not being friendly or warm or giving them the information that they need. So the templates that are in Parting Pro are a great starting point, but they're best if they are personalized for you, so that it doesn't come off as kind of a canned message. And so we'll go through kind of how to personalize the templates. So first off, let's just show you where they live in Parting Pro, and I have a screenshot on my next slide so that I can show you exactly, if you're in the dashboard, where you'll get them. But in general, they're going to be under your settings. And then you've got an email templates option, and then you've got proposal emails. You'll also see all the other emails that you could potentially personalize there. For the proposal emails, you've got 3 different versions. You've got a pre-need template, an at-need template, and an imminent template. And then you can customize multiple things within the email. So you can customize the sender of the email. You can customize the subject line of the email, the message, and then you can also add attachments. And then the other thing that you can actually customize is your follow-up emails. So if the customer, or excuse me, we've got a regular set schedule for families to get a follow-up email after receiving the proposal email. You can control when those are sent as far as the time frame and also what they say. So these should cover most scenarios for you. But I'll show you the screenshot so you can kind of see where they are in Parting Pro. So you'll navigate up to where your name is in the menu, and then down into your settings. And then you'll see the email templates over here. And today specifically, we're talking about proposal emails. And then you'll see the pre-need, at-need, and imminent options there. And then the pencil icon here is going to let you actually edit the email. And we can walk through doing this live at the end of the presentation as well, so you can kind of see what that's going to look like. It is very easy, but we'll walk through it together as well. And we're also here to help at any point if you would just like to meet with one of us and go through personalizing the emails. So we're going to get into a couple examples. Now, we're going to give you an example here of like a bad email. So there's nothing wrong with the email itself. So if we look at the email, it's just very basic. So it says hello or hi, and it's going to have the recipient's name. This message is to inform you of the available services at the funeral home name. Please review the attached documentation to evaluate options for services and associated costs. For further assistance, contact our office during business hours. So in essence, the email says what we need it to say, right? Here's the information that you wanted. If you need us, call us. But it's not very warm, and it feels very robotic and impersonal. And it doesn't reflect anything about this brand other than here's the information you wanted. So it really fails in a couple of areas. It fails to reflect like any care or professionalism really that you're aiming to convey in the communications that you're sending out. And again, since this is like your first impression, this is where you want to take the time to really convey those things. And you can still do that in a very short, brief, effective message without having to get like overly like we used to call it flowery or fluffy, like it just really kind of adding a lot of words. You don't have to do that. You can do this very quickly. So let's show you what a good email would look like here. So this email is a little more personalized. You can see it's still brief, so it's not long, but it's giving them thank you for reaching out to us, the funeral home name. We know this can be a difficult time, and we're here to make things as clear and simple as possible. So that's in 2 sentences. We've thanked them for reaching out, we've acknowledged what they're going through, and we've let them know that we're here to support them. So that is what we want to aim for when you're personalizing your email, is you want to connect with that family, let them know what the steps are and how you're going to help them through that. And we're still, of course, going to give them the information that they need, right? They called you, they want to connect to your store, you want to be able to get them into your store. So below you'll find a link to our service options, pricing, and merchandise. If you have any questions or just want to talk through the next steps, please don't hesitate to call us at, and then you provide their phone number. We're here to help whenever you need us, and then warmly for the salutation. So that's an example of how you can just quickly adjust your email template to speak more to your brand. And we'll talk a little bit more about how specifically you can do this for your own brand. Some other ways that you could do this here is I've got a couple of examples. If you want to be warm and direct, you could say something like, we know this can be a difficult time and we're here to make things as clear and simple as possible. Reflective and higher touch. So if you're at a traditional funeral home or you really want to give that white glove experience, you're more hands-on, but the family's still making, very simple, maybe direct cremation arrangements, it's an opportunity for you to actually proposition that value. So even in simple arrangements, there's still an opportunity to be present, thoughtful, and helpful. So just letting them know that in their minds, they might be making a very simple arrangement, and maybe in their minds, they don't necessarily need much assistance, but you're still letting them know you can be there and you'll be helpful and thoughtful in that arrangement. So, okay, so let's move into talking about the tone of the email. In Parting Pro, there are 3 different standard email templates that you can customize for each scenario. So you've got a pre-need template, an at-need template, and an imminent template. And this is where you can take a different tone with the emails and really tailor the email to the different scenarios. So a pre-need, you might want to be more reflective and have a warm tone and just creating a safe space for families to explore their options. So that might look like, offering a scheduled call with them, whatever that looks like for that family that is pre-planning. And so that language might look different than the at-need family. For the at-need, I think clarity is really the key. We want to be as clear as possible with the at-need family. They're obviously under a bit more stress if they've experienced the loss already. So we want to be clear, calm, of course, compassionate. And it's vital, I think, in this communication, especially, that our words convey like the stability and support that you're there to give them, even through the simple things like, and it on face value, going through the online arranger is very simple. However, if they've got questions, you want them to understand that they can go ahead and call you, and that you'll be able to walk them through that. And then for the imminent, I think having like a reassuring and supportive tone is a way to go here, so that they feel that you're ready to assist them when needed, and that they'll be able to make those arrangements smoothly. So I would really give a little bit of thought of what you're trying to convey with each one of these. We'll have some sample templates for you as well, that you'll be able to utilize. So in regards to tone, the needs of the family is one tone to consider. The other tone to consider is kind of your brand's voice. So what type of brand are you, and what are you trying to convey? The family's emotional state, of course, which can really be tied to that, the need type. So at need, pre-need, imminent. And then the purpose of your message. So is your purpose really to get that family into the online store so that they can see your information? Or do you want to be a little bit more instructive and give them an example of what's going to come next? So something like this could be very simple, where you could say something along the lines of, after completing, after going through our online store, you'll receive a few forms to fill out. One will collect the vital information, and one will be an authorization, or something along those lines. So you can give them the kind of next steps. So you can kind of decide what's going to be most important for you and your team to be able to convey, and then layer that into your emails, so that they're consistent there. So I have a couple of examples of how one might tailor an email based on the brand. So for a traditional funeral home, where maybe like heritage and heart are the things that they're trying to convey, um, their brand persona may be warm and respectful and deeply rooted in tradition. They may want to be able to convey these things to the families that are calling. So their emails might lean more into that support. So they may say something along the line, even in their subject line, to say, here to support you through every step. They may say, dear Mr. or Mrs. And they might say things along the lines of, it would be an honor to assist your family during this time. And they may also say something like, with sincere sympathy, at the end of their email. Now that leans a lot more traditional, um, where a direct cremation provider whose focus is really being like simple and straightforward, not that they're not caring, but it's just a different vibe. If we're going to be very simple and very straightforward and kind of to the point, that might be something like, here's what you need to know, or here's the information you requested. We might say hi instead of dear. And then we might say something along the lines of, we included everything you need to get started, but feel free and reach out if you have questions. And then thanks again, we're here when you need us. So those emails would essentially say the same thing. It's just different tone and different language, which you can customize based on what you're trying to convey. So this is another way that you can really kind of get your brand out there and what you're trying to allow that family to accomplish with you. I haven't stopped yet for questions. I'm sorry. Have we had any questions, Jan?
We had one question. I wasn't sure if she was talking about the templates to the dashboard, but Amy mentioned, will we be able to save these to our profile?
Got ya. Do you
Um,
want to take that, Jan?
yeah, so once you save those email templates on your dashboard, anytime you create a new case, that template will automatically be applied as long as you indicate which need type. So in the case details page, at the top where you can select pre-need, at need, or imminent, based on the email template that you customize, if you customize that at need template and you selected at need, that would reflect the changes in that case details page. However, if there was an existing case, those email templates, I believe, will not be updated.
Right. And let me go back to this other slide here too, Amy. So the emails, and thank you for bringing this up because I kind of skipped over it. But if you edit the emails here in your settings and you edit your pre-need template, that will be saved, but it's going to be saved for your entire dashboard. So these aren't settings that can be different per user in your dashboard. So it will be the template that's saved for the entire company. And then when you go to send an actual email, you have an additional opportunity at that time to customize that specific email. So if there's something that you want to say to that customer specifically based on your conversation, we can walk through that at the end. But when you go to send out your proposal email, you'll select your template. So you might select your pre-need template and it's going to have what you've saved there, but you can edit it right then before sending it to that specific customer as well. So great question. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. So let's jump back into the brand here. So these are just some examples of what that may look like. And then to think about your own brand, this is the way I would kind of think about this. Just kind of coming up with a very just quick checklist on how you want it to come across. So do you have a tone that's more formal and conversational? So this can significantly impact how your message is received. And an example of this is when I was practicing as a funeral director, I was in Portland, Oregon, and everybody's very laid back in Portland, right? It's like a very laid back, low key vibe. Everyone's hey, hello. Um, and my husband's in the military and we are now in southern Georgia. And it's not hey, hello here. It's ma'am, it's sir, it's Mr., it's Mrs. So depending on where you live, you might need to tailor your email, and dear Mr. So-and-so might be more appropriate for you than hi, Ashley. So you can take that into account. And I'll have like a little caveat here with the Mr. and Mrs. So we don't have the ability to have the system like generate Mr. or Mrs. depending on the email you're sending out. However, what I've seen a funeral home do is use the last name. So in your template, it would say dear last name. And then when you go to send that email, and this is an example I'll show you because it's probably confusing just to hear me talk about it. But when you go to send that email, that's an opportunity where depending on who you're sending this to, who you've talked to on the phone with, you can just pop in the Mr. or Mrs. I've also seen funeral homes do a family name. So, Dear Jones family, something like that. If you didn't want to do the Mr. or Mrs. every single time you sent out an email. Also just dear first name. So you have an option to kind of tailor that to whatever area you're in and what works best for your location. And then I think another thing to check is just, are your emails warm and reflective or direct and clear? What are you trying to get across to them? And then lastly, do they sound like they're from a real person? Would somebody on your team actually say this? Because if not, then you might just need to tweak the language a little bit. This is also true in everything. So back when funeral homes kind of started charging for overweight fees, I remember like the staff and myself too having like a hard time figuring out how to say that in a conversation because it feels a little bit uncomfortable. And everybody has to kind of find their own language that they would actually really say to somebody. So somebody might say, we've got an overweight fee. Would that apply to your loved one? Another way to say that was, does your loved one weigh over 300 pounds? Like there's so many ways to say the exact same thing. So just get creative in what you're trying to convey and just make it sound like a real person. Joseph, you said fluffy. For, um, is that for the overweight question? That is certainly another way to say it. Uh, yes, so that's exactly what I mean, like what you're going to say, for sure. So all of these things taken into account. So, you might not, if you don't have a clear idea of what your brand is, that's okay too. These are very simple to kind of customize and play with. And just, I think if you don't have like a very clear brand voice and you know exactly what you're trying to say, just sticking to being simple, clear, and supportive is a really good start. And I know AI is very popular right now, but this is also an area where AI can really help. And so I'm going to give you an example of how AI can help you with this. So this would work with ChatGPT or any of the stuff out there. And a lot of these are free. But if I was trying to customize an email in ChatGPT, I would just give it a simple prompt like, I'm a funeral home director who offers direct cremation services. Can you help me write a warm, clear email template I can use to respond to new inquiries? So that's a very simple request for ChatGPT. And then the nice thing is if you're not familiar with ChatGPT or an AI, it's going to give you a response and then you can tweak it and say, that's not really the tone I wanted, or actually, I need to make sure it includes these three things. I need to make sure it includes a link to our prices. I need to make sure it includes this, and it will continue to adjust that for you. So I did this exact prompt, and then I'll show you the output I got here. So this is the output that I got. So hello, hi, recipient name. Thank you for choosing or considering funeral home during this difficult time. We're here to make the next steps as simple, as clear, and possible. You can view our available packages and services here, and that's where you'd put your link. After selecting the right option for your family, you'll receive a few brief forms to complete, and we'll guide you through the process from there. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here for you warmly. So that feels like a very personal email. It does not feel canned, and it's short and concise. The other thing that I was going to mention is keeping them short is best. If you can be as succinct as possible with still being caring and conveying that message, that is usually going to work best, just because in this day and age, especially, everybody's like attention span is like this big, because we're used to just getting information so quick. So the more succinct and concise you can be, the better, but also by conveying your information. And this is where I think AI can be especially helpful for everybody. And Joey, yes, we will email you the recording after this if you need to step away, no problem. And so this is, I think, where AI can really help too, is if you've got a lot of information that you want to convey, and some of us are just wordy, we just are. But if you've got a lot of information you want to convey and you want to be able to put that into, let's say, ChatGPT and say, make this as succinct as possible with a friendly tone, it will give you multiple options to use, and you'll be able to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish there with that email. Okay, and then we've got a question here from Amy. So you have two locations, both location addresses show up in the closing of the normal template. If we remove the address that doesn't apply to one of our locations, will be deleted off the letter that will be sent to the family. So if you have two different dashboards, Amy, the templates are only going to be applicable to that one dashboard. So if you currently have your two addresses showing up in an email template and you delete one, it will just be removed from that specific email that's going out to the family. Now, if you have one dashboard and you have two physical locations that you're using the one dashboard for, you'll need to decide how you want that address to show up. And if you don't want the second address to show up on every email, then you'll need to delete that before you send that specific email, or find a way to like succinctly say it in the template.
Yeah,
Um,
and I was going to say the location that gets pulled over in those email templates is the main location that you set up on
mm,
the back end. So
mhm,
whichever you want to consider as your like primary or your first location, that would populate over in your
mhm.
email template.
Yeah, good point. Um, Perfect. Okay, so let's get into just some overall general tips for stronger emails. I think starting with a real thank you is always a good thing. We're just thanking the family for either reaching out to us, for choosing us. So it's just a pleasant way to start an interaction. And just use plain language. Make sure we're not using industry jargon that we kind of get used to and we don't even think about. So when we say something like first call, nobody knows what that means if they're not in the industry. So just make sure it's plain language and you're speaking to somebody that has zero knowledge of the industry. It's always helpful to include next steps and clear contact information. And a lot of this, the contact information is all going to be auto-populated for you, but you can adjust what is auto-populated. And then your subject line, making sure that that kind of builds trust and it's not just super generic. And then just try and invite real conversations instead of just clicks. So look, I realize the point of business is to be able to get that customer to choose you and get into your store. But having a real conversation with them only encourages that and builds the trust. Like I think of it like when you go to the grocery store, um, and you go to the checkout and you have somebody who looks at you and says hello and you have a brief conversation, or you go to the checkout and no, you don't get a greeting, you just buy your groceries and you move on. Both interactions did the same thing for you. You got the groceries that you wanted. The person on the other end didn't really have an impact on whether you got your groceries or not, but it did have an impact on how you felt about that interaction. And that's the same thing about not only emails, but your phone conversations. And so that's something I think to always keep in mind that you're warm and friendly. This business can get repetitive, especially if you're answering multiple phone calls a day and you're talking, you're giving half of those people the same spiel because they need pricing. We can kind of really get into a rut with how we're speaking about things. But trying to build that connection is really important, that's your starting point over the phone. And then your email can really back that up. Um, so we'll go ahead and open up for some Q&A for just a moment. I do want to show you in the dashboard. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second so I can get my other links pulled up here and get into the dashboard so I can show you exactly where to personalize these emails. So let me just get this pulled up real quick. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Okay, perfect. So where I am now is just in that settings menu. So I've come up to my name and I've chosen settings, and then I'm in the emails and proposals here. So in the email, let's just look at the pre-need one. I'm going to click on the pencil icon and just show you how you can actually customize these things. So what you'll first see is what we call our field mapping keys. And these are the available options to autofill information. So you would copy and paste these into the sections down here. So you don't have to have them, you don't have to manually type them. And we'll show you that in a second. And then you've got your sender name. So this is how the email shows up from, this is who the email sender looks like. So right now the default is that it would say the funeral home name in the case username. So if this was my funeral home, it would say Parting Pro Funeral Home, Ashley Jones. That's who it would say it was coming from. And then we've got the subject. So here's the arrangement information you requested from. And then we've got that merge code for your funeral home name. And then as we come down here, we would say, hi, recipient name. This is where you can kind of customize all the information that you wanted to say. So if you were going to customize an email like this, we could take some of the text that we had generated and paste it in here, and then just make sure that our merge codes are showing up at the right spot. So as a really simple thing, if I wanted to change this from hi, and maybe hi is not the thing I want to say, maybe I want to say, dear Ashley, I would just adjust that there. And then I've got a preview button that will bring up with some fake information. So it's going to give you a name. It's going to give your funeral home name. So you can see what this looks like for the customer. So it would say, Dear Marley, if that's who you're sending it to. And then you can see it's got the funeral home name filled in where it shows it filled in. It's also got the funeral home name and username put in here. And this will allow you to see kind of what your buttons look like, what your links look like, and be able to be confident that what you're editing is showing up is going to show up correctly. Now, as far as the funeral home name and things, Amy, like you were saying, this footer is where you're going to see that. So right now, by default, the funeral home name, address, and phone number are going to be the primary location in your dashboard. Now, if you wanted this to show two locations, and maybe that's what it is doing, you could come down here and put in your second location name. And now this isn't going to be autofilled. This is going to stay the same every time because I'm manually typing it in, but then you would put in their address here, and then the city, state, just like that. And then when you preview it, you would have in the very bottom, you can see it down here. This is what's autofilled. Those are using those merge codes. And then this is that other location that I manually typed in so that it will be there for you. The other thing too is you can do attachments here. So if you have a certain thing that you want your pre-need or imminent or at-need families to have, you can put this here. We have some funeral homes that put their GPL here and can cite that in the email that our GPL is attached, something like that. So you've got that opportunity as well to have that set in every email. And then again, when you go to send that email, if that particular attachment doesn't apply, you can remove it before you actually send the email out. And then as we move down to the bottom here, this is where you'll have your reminders. So by default, the system is going to send out a reminder after 1 day and then after 7 days for the pre-need. And if you click on the pencil icon, this will allow you to see what the reminder email says. So these are shorter. This is the body of the email here. These are shorter than the other ones, but this is something that you can also take the opportunity to customize and say, you know, if this was a pre-need family and I sent them an email yesterday, what would I want them to know a day or two later that we're still here, that they can still access the links, things like that. And then you can also determine what intervals you want them sent at. So right now, this is going to be sent 1 day after I sent my original pre-need email, only if the customer's not gone and completed the checkout. If they complete the checkout before before they're set to get a reminder, the reminders don't send. And then, so you could say, maybe I just want the same email to send every 2 days and repeat 3 times. You could adjust all of these time frames here. And then you've got the same ability to preview here. And then you can, this one's actually got 2 reminders on it. So I'm going to scroll back down to the bottom here. So the one I just looked at was the reminder that's going to go out after 1 day. And then there's a second reminder that goes out after 7 days, which I can adjust as well. You can also get rid of them if you don't want reminders. You can do that. You can add additional reminders too if you want to increase the amount of emails that are being sent. So that is
Actually,
how you do that.
Joseph
Yes.
actually had a question
Okay.
regarding the the proposal emails. He
Uh-huh.
asked if we can actually see it, see the emails that are sent. I believe we can see when the proposal emails were sent and the actual case details page, where
Mhm.
it indicates the timestamp and the date and whether or not that email was opened by the recipient or the informant. But I believe we can't actually open it. Just if you
Mhm.
go back to the case details page,
Yeah, you're correct. So let me
yeah,
find one that would
you
have an
can
email.
see the.
So
Mhm.
yeah, so it would be like this. I just clicked on a case really quick where I had sent a proposal email, and I know that the proposal email was sent, but it's not, it won't show you the text at this time. So what was exactly sent? But that's great feedback, and I absolutely see the value in that, especially if you've personalized the email and you said, and you're trying to be on the same page as your team to kind of understand what was said in that initial email can be really helpful. So that's really great feedback, that we will for sure pass on to our product team to see if that's something we could potentially implement for everybody at some point. Because like I said, I definitely see the value in that. Um, um, okay. Let's see. Any other questions? We can kind of get into general questions at this point too. If it would be helpful to walk through a full personalization, I'd be happy to do that. But I'm also happy to kind of take any questions that you've got at this point. So we'll give a minute um, for that. The question was asked a little bit earlier if we would be sending out the recording. We will send out the recording of this. We'll also, we've got a couple resources for you this time. So we've got a brand checklist for you to go through if you want to customize your own emails and just kind of have a checklist to make sure it's kind of hitting all the right points. And then we've also got some sample email templates that we'll send along with the recording. There's a couple versions there, that's one that's very simple and one direct, one that's a bit more reflective, and one that's a bit longer. So we'll send those out. We're also happy to help with this at any point. That's kind of what we're here for in client success, is to just assist y'all with strategy and make sure that you're feeling like you're accomplishing what you need to. So you're welcome to reach out to us as well. There'll be a link again in the email to our calendars where you can schedule a call with us if needed. Um, and let's see, anything else you could think of, Jan? Forgetting anything?
I think that's it. I believe we covered everything regarding the email
Okay,
templates.
I
perfect.
have a question if I can ask it.
Absolutely, please.
On the forms, when we put the names in, is there any way that the font size can be changed to a bigger font size? Because it's kind of small.
Let's see. And is that on the form itself
Yes.
or okay. Um, so let me just go to what I think you're talking about, and then we'll just make sure we're on the same page. So if I was going to go to send a form
Mhm.
or print it, um, so are you meaning like one of the forms that you have in here, when you go to customize this, that the font is very small on your form itself?
Yes, where the
Okay,
the person's name go.
got it. Okay. So, so the answer is kind of yes, you can change your forms and we can re-upload forms if needed. So
Well,
we
not the
see this
forms, the name. Like when we type the name in and
like
it
this.
prints out, yes,
Okay.
it prints it out and it's small. Is there how do you change
Okay.
that to make it a little bigger?
Sure. So we can we can take a look at the form and see if it's something where we can just increase the size of this field,
Mm-hmm.
or if there's not enough space in the form itself for a larger field, then we
Okay.
might just need to increase the font of the overall document so that a larger field will fit in here.
Okay.
Um, and which funeral home are you with? And we can go ahead and take a look at that for you and follow
G
up.
Giancola.
Giancola. Okay, perfect.
And then I also had another question regarding
Absolutely.
when you're filling out the form and you go to put like the time of death in, it's only in increments of 5. So it's like 10, 10:05, 10:15, 10:20, 10:25. And even when you hit actual, it's still in that increments of 5. So
Got it.
is there a way that you can actually put if they pass that 5:17, 5:28?
Yeah. So you're talking about this right here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Um, Okay. So I know what you mean. When you do it like this, it's going to go up by 5. So even this is going up by 5 right now. However, I think all I did was select this, and I'm going to do 0, 5. And then if I tab over, I can put in whatever number I want it to.
Okay.
And then if I tab again, it just takes me right out of that field, and it will keep that time.
Okay.
But you're right. You kind of have to do it down here. And so it's not letting you type right in here, but using the arrows, it is going to default just to the 5. So if I go to 0 right now, it just goes up by 5. So just highlight over it and then type right in there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, great
What about
question.
military time?
So you
don't
would
like the
do
military.
that.
You don't want to use it.
Yeah. So you would just do that manually too. So if it was
Okay.
11:30, then you're going to do 23.
Okay.
I don't think we have the ability at this time to make the clock either military or standard, but again,
Okay.
good feedback that we will certainly take to our team. But yeah, you would just type it in manually on the military time.
Valuable information.
Okay.
Good.
I can't find my thing.
Any other questions? Happy to answer things that aren't related to email templates at all. That's why we're here. So anything else we can help with, we're happy to do that.
I believe that's it. I had some notes. I was trying to make sure I covered everything that we had. I think I'm good, because we can always contact you if we have any questions.
Yes, absolutely. Feel free and contact us for anything. We did just put a short survey in the chat. If y'all wouldn't mind taking a moment to do that for us, we'd love to know what you guys would it be helpful for you guys to hear about in the future for this type of interaction. And then also any dates and times that work best for you, because I know schedules are tough, but if there's a particular date and time, or any feedback you'd like to share with us, that'd be great. And then you can expect to have probably the recording and those resources that I mentioned tomorrow at some point. But okay, well, thank you for joining us. And as always, just reach out if you need anything.
Thank you all.